evening and welcome to Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, coming to you live from our studio here at Adisanwe Kanda in Accra. Coming up this evening, minority steps up pressure on government to ensure the immediate payment of cocoa farmers for produce supplied since November last year. We have details of that for you in a moment. Also coming up, still on that though, the Licensed Cocoa Buyers Association of Ghana is calling on government to urgently outline a clear roadmap for alternative financing arrangements for the cocoa sector. And later in the bulletin, Accra High Court's decision to slash self-styled evangelist Agrada's 15-year sentence to 12 months leaves the legal community divided. We'll try and explore the options available for the state and also what next and what does this mean going forward. Details of all of these, including business and sports, at the latter end of the show. My name is Martin Asiedu-Dartey. Let's bring you the news summaries now with Nura Mohammed. Hello, Nura.
Hello, Martin. Good evening. You're welcome to the news summaries on Hot Edition. First in the summaries, the Licensed Cocoa Buyers Association of Ghana, LICOBAG, has raised concerns over what it describes as excessive political interference at the Ghana Cocoa Board, warning that the trend poses a serious threat to the sustainability of the country's cocoa industry. At a press conference held in Accra on Thursday, February 5, the association said challenges confronting the cocoa value chain, particularly at the post-harvest stage from the farm gate to the terminal, have reached a critical point and could trigger a collapse of the industry if urgent corrective measures are not taken. Now, the Korle-Klottey Municipal Assembly, Kokma, has suspended all burials at the Osu Cemetery with immediate effect following revelations of illegal exhumations, desecration of human remains, and the unauthorized sale of burial plots. The decision was announced by the Municipal Chief Executive Alfred Atto-Alote-Gesi, who, through a statement read to the media on Thursday, February 5, by the Mayor Michael Kpapo-Alote. Describing the reported practices as criminal and unethical, Mr. Alote-Gesi said they were deeply offensive to Ghana's cultural values and respect for the dead. Meanwhile, President John Dramani Mahama has stressed that Africa's future hinges on transparent, accountable and efficient leadership, warning that the misuse of public resources and weak institutions continue to undermine the continent's progress. Addressing members of parliament in Zambia on Thursday, February 5, President Mahama said sustainable development can only be achieved through strong institutions rather than powerful individuals. And that'll be all for the summaries. Over to you, Martin.
Thank you very much, Nura. Let's settle for the details of our stories now. And you can always be a part of the show on our social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, and also on Twitter, where we are live and streaming this bulletin. All right, so the minority in Parliament has strongly criticized the government and the Ghana Cocoa Board over what it describes as the failure to pay cocoa farmers nearly 10 billion Ghana cedis, demanding the immediate settlement of all outstanding arrears and a formal apology to affected farmers. According to the Minority Caucus, delays in payments for cocoa deliveries dating as far back as November 2025 have plunged farmers in cocoa growing communities into severe hardship. Many, they say, are yet to be paid despite repeated assurances from Cocoa Board. Addressing journalists in Parliament, the ranking member on Parliament's Food, Agriculture and Cocoa Affairs Committee, Isaac Opoku, said the situation had become untenable and was pushing both farmers and the cocoa industry towards a crisis. Let's listen to him as they address the media on this particular issue.
Farmers have tended their farms through harsh weather. They have spent huge resources to control pests and diseases. They have toiled to harvest their farms and sold it to the government in good faith. Yet, months later, they are still waiting for weeks on end to be paid. Is this the resetting which was promised the good people of Ghana, or the reversing of the cocoa industry? Farmers are asking. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, it is not only the poor farmer who is suffering. The failings of government and Cocoa Board are also hurting the cocoa buying companies, that is the LBCs, and transporters, especially the indigenous companies and local enterprises. By delaying in repayment of cocoa taken over from the LBCs, these business and investments are at risk. They have their working capitals locked up, their progress hindered, and financing confidence undermined. Contrary to what the NDC preached pre-election time to promote indigenous business and investments, they have rather reset to kill indigenous companies, businesses, and enterprises in the cocoa industry. We call on government and cocoa board to pay our cocoa farmers immediately for all cocoa beans sold and to be sold to save the cocoa industry from slipping back to days of despondency and loss of interest. We demand an apology from government and cocoa board for this gross dereliction of duty. Cocoa board must reimburse the LBCs of all outstanding repayments of cocoa purchased and delivered, and must also ensure the prompt repayment of subsequent deliveries and CTORs to avoid the recurrence of this despicable situation in the future. We demand that our cherished cocoa farmers are treated better and with dignity than what we are seeing now. Cocoa farmers are not beggars. Paying cocoa farmers promptly is not a favor, it is an obligation.
And so that's the minority's position on the cocoa issue in Ghana. And you heard the voice of Ranking Member on Parliament's Food, Agriculture and Cocoa Affairs Committee, Yao Opoku. There. Well, the Chief Executive Officer of Cocoa Board, Dr. Randy Abbey, has apologized to cocoa farmers over the delayed payment. Speaking earlier to TV3, he appealed to farmers to exercise patience, explaining that the Finance Ministry and Cocoa Board are working together to find a lasting solution to the problem.
Cocoa Board is under pressure, grappling with...
And the issue has to do with the fact that the buyers currently find our cocoa too expensive at this point as compared to how much it's being sold in other jurisdictions. And so whether you're talking about our neighbors or other cocoa producing countries, we have had to now come in and use high price cocoa to be servicing the 2,600 dollar contracts that they sold this cocoa for. The truth of the matter is that we all appreciate where the issues are today. And it is also linked to the funding model that we inherited as a result of the break in the syndication because of the financial mess that Cocoa Board found itself in. So it is quite a delicate situation. We appreciate all the issues that are being raised, but we're also working assiduously to find a solution to mop up what is left there. All I would ask is that they exercise a bit of patience. The Honorable Minister of Finance, the board of Cocoa Board and the management are working to find a way out of this situation. I don't think that it will be too long. I think that, we have definitely demonstrated that we have these farmers at heart.
Right, so you heard the voice of the CEO of Cocoa Board, Dr. Randy Abbey there. Clearly, there is a challenge when it comes to issues of Cocoa Board, when it comes to the payment to the farmers who have produced cocoa for the state. Some of them have already been sold, but then the funding or the financing has not reached the farmers yet. And it's on the back of that the minority in Parliament is asking for an apology and then an expedited effort to ensure that the farmers get their due when it comes to issues of payment. We would in a minute speak to the General Secretary and President of the Concerned Farmers Association of Ghana, Nana Boadia Boating Bunsu. But before that, let's speak to my colleague Wisdom Safo, who's been combing through the numbers for us and how the cocoa sector has been playing in the last few years. Looking specifically at 2024, 2025, and this new year we have entered. So, Wisdom, what's the current situation when it comes to the numbers? Talk to us. Are we doing well? Where is the challenge specifically?
So, Martin, the cocoa sector challenge is interconnected. Let me take you back. If you recall, in 2024, we were out of the syndicated loan market. The syndicated loan was the loan that was actually being a buffer for the cocoa industry. So what happens is that these international banks lend us about $1.5 billion so that Cocoa Board can disburse these funds to the LBCs in order to buy LBCs, the licensed buy companies, so that they can buy this produce from the farmers and pay them the money upfront. But here lies the case: we went out of this syndicated loan market, and we are now using a new model. And under this new model, this is what happens. So 60% of upfront payment is demanded from our buyers from the international market. So we heard the Cocoa Board CEO, Randy Abe, saying that the buyers are now finding our produce very expensive, because you know what? If you look at the trend for cocoa prices on the global market, it is declining. If you compare 2025 March figure, which is around $10,000 per ton, to the current figure, which is around $4,000 per ton, you can't be selling your cocoa at that peak price. They will find it very expensive. So they will not be willing to give you that 60% upfront. So it is making, it is causing liquidity issues. So there's no money for Cocoa Board to give to these LBCs to buy the produce from the farmers. So simply, that's the mismatch, and that's what is causing the current issue.
And what have we heard from the farmers? We have heard the Cocoa Board CEO say that, well, they acknowledge the challenge, they apologize. What generally has been the concern of the farmers?
So the concern of the farmers had been, look, I've produced, I've harvested, I've given you my cocoa beans, and I'm demanding my money. You have to give me my money so that at least I will reinvest it into the next planting season.
Right.
Else, I have to go and borrow in order to produce. And if I borrow, you take note, it comes with interest and all
extra
other
charges.
Yeah, extra charges. So that's what the farmers are saying, that look, their livelihoods are at stake. Cocoa Board, I know we've been told by PBC and Cocoa Board that there's a high-level discussion going on as to how to come about when it comes to the financing and solving this particular issue. But Martin, there's one thing I also want to point out that has to do with the subsidies that have been absorbed by Cocoa Board. You realize that in early 2025, the finance minister came to announce that the FOB price that was given to the cocoa farmers have been increased. I mean, the farmers gate price, the farm gate prices. So we realized that we increased the price per bag for the cocoa farmer. And this came at a time where we already have a backlog of cocoa beans that we've not supplied to international buyers. So we were in debt. But yes, to fulfill that promise that was made by President Mahama, the price was increased. So Cocoa Board had to absorb the extra cost, and they have to absorb it and pay the farmers that high price. I mean, around $4,040 per ton. That was what it was being sold. So we're giving the cocoa farmer around 70% of that, so that we can increase their price locally. Yes, so we didn't have that money to do it. So we had to go and find money from elsewhere. So Cocoa Board is currently in debt, about 20.6 billion Ghana cedis in debt. And we are having decline in cocoa prices on the international markets. So that's why I'm saying the issues, the problems are interconnected.
Multifaceted.
Yes. So that's the whole picture if you are looking at the issues surrounding the cocoa sector and the delays in the payment for the farmers.
Okay, thank you. Wisdom Safo is with our research desk here at Media General, and so now we can go to the phone lines now and speak to someone who's also been following this cocoa conversation very closely, Nana Abuadia Boatimbo. So he is the Farmers General Secretary and President of the Concerned Farmers Association of Ghana. Nana, good evening. Thank you for your time. Help us understand the impact of this delay on cocoa farmers. We know that you have supplied as far back, or the cocoa farmers had supplied as far back as November, and these payments have delayed. What exactly, in your opinion, is the challenge, and what's the impact?
Well, it is good evening to your listeners. It is very hectic. I mean, very dangerous. It's getting dangerous and it's getting scary because some of the farmers borrowed money for their activity, which those that they borrow the money from are hunting them for the money. And then also, we are family people that our wives and other things also do trade, which money has been also been borrowed for them to do the trade, which all that we know is we've sold our cocoa is out, and we are expecting money just to balance it, but yet still nothing has been done. So this has been a serious challenge, which we can't even hold it at all. Our kids have to go to school. We need to pay some few things which we are not getting. And even how to hold it with a family issue has become a very serious thing that farmers are seriously in pain. So this is a very challenging. I mean, it is very serious that some of our people, our members, have very serious concern that others are ready even to give out their cocoa farms and other things for a big money just to take care of themselves, which I think it is not in a good way that we are also talking to them. And then also others have also raised serious concern that they are passing themselves straight up to Cocoa Board to come and demonstrate seriously so that their money will be given to them. So this is the situation on the ground that we are also dialoguing one-on-one Cocoa Board. But there's an update which is coming from the Cocoa Board that very soon smile will be on the faces of the farmers. So we are also waiting for them to hear from them. There's going to be a meeting with the farmers and then Cocoa Board, which is going to be, let's say, by tomorrow, by Monday, we'll be hearing from Cocoa Board. So that is the situation on the ground.
Right. And so it actually dovetails into my question, which is the next question, which is that the Cocoa Board has apologized and given you an assurance. And you are saying that, well, based on the assurance, you are going to be optimistic that latest by Monday you start hearing something positive. Is that it?
Yeah, well, that is all that we are hoping for, because looking at the pressure that is coming from the side of the farmers, it is very serious in a way that if we don't solve it in a way, it's going to bring a whole lot of disaster into the industry, which with the concerned farmers. Our main mandate is to make sure that Cocoa Board don't collapse. Cocoa Board hold it very tight, because it is the cocoa that we use to run the whole country. And when it happens like that, it becomes a problem. So we are looking forward to hear something good by Monday from Cocoa Board.
Okay. Right. Maybe my final question before you take leave of us. In the interim or going forward, what would the best option be for farmers? I'm sure you've been in touch with Cocoa Board over the years. There have been interactions between you and government. What policy changes do you think can help the situation so that these delays do not affect the farmer like you are saying?
Yeah, we have been so many. One of the years that cocoa came, I mean, it is so many years that we started producing cocoa, and we've not been able to add value to our produce. All that we know is to send the raw materials outside for people to use it, and we bring it back to us for people to buy. So it's up to Cocoa Board, to set up a cocoa processing, a factory, which is going to employ a lot of people. That is one. And then two, is going to help the local industry for we also to have money. So at the end of the day, we are not going to face this kind of challenges that is happening. If we do produce or we do add value to our produce within the country, I don't think there's going to be a challenge like this that for the past 3 months we are not having our money. So I think going forward, Cocoa Board has to think about it and then set up a cocoa processing factory which we can add value to our produce that the other countries that they don't even have cocoa can also benefit, can do it. We produce cocoa in this country, but our children in school don't even benefit from our produce.
That's a fair point.
Media general, this morning I don't think you people have been taking cocoa, even your snack. You are not even taking the cocoa drink, which you have to take it. So it's something that we are putting up to Cocoa Board that I think with this very year they have to set up. Putting up a cocoa processing factory doesn't cost much that they can do it. They can do it. So I think they have to look at that sector so that at the end of the day it's not going to be a mess like the way we are in now, that we the farmers don't even have money as it is.
That's a fair point you make. Totally agree with you that it's long overdue that we start processing our own cocoa here in Ghana. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you very much.
And that is Nana Oboadia Boating Bonsu, who is the Farmers General Secretary and President of the Concerned Farmers Association of Ghana. And their plea is pretty simple, that the delays in payment to farmers, cocoa farmers, should be a thing of the past, hopefully due to the assurances and the apology issued by the Cocoa Board CEO. In the coming days, they should be able to get their money and then also help their families and reinvest into the cocoa business. Clearly, we can tell that as a country, our strongest backbone when it comes to the economy has been our sale and export of cocoa beans. And the concern now is that we've done this for several decades, but unfortunately, we don't seem to be getting it right, where farmers produce, government buys from them as an off-taker, and then when they do sell, or they are unable to sell, the farmer is impacted because the funding or the financing is not as reciprocal or immediate as they expect. So going forward, Ghana as a country should first of all start thinking of how to process our raw cocoa beans instead of sending them out in that manner. Because if we do that, it will in and of itself start creating jobs in other sectors in the value chain as well. This is Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We know that the association has also been speaking. So the Licensed Cocoa Buyers Association of Ghana, LICOBAG, is demanding an immediate roadmap from government on new financing modules for the cocoa sector. The association says with over 300,000 tons of beans piling up, government must act immediately to prevent a shutdown. Ghana's cocoa regulator, Cocoa Board, has come under pressure over its inability to raise funds to pay arrears owed to cocoa farmers since November 2025. The Licensed Cocoa Buyers Association of Ghana attributes Cocoa Board's challenge to a myriad of factors, including excessive political interference. The association is calling on government to provide a clear roadmap toward addressing the financing gap. Let's listen to Victus Ja, who is the Secretary General of the Licensed Cocoa Buyers Association of Ghana.
We suggest that a review of the current funding model, we want the current funding model to be reviewed so that a hybrid of the old model of securing some syndication facility, that is from local or international banks, to enable real-time payment for cocoa purchased and delivered to port by IBCs. We propose a limited seed fund regime to be operated to support IBCs to survive, especially the local ones. The government must, as a matter of urgency, secure some facility to pay for estimated 300,000 metric tons of cocoa in a phased-off manner between now and September to prevent the crisis deepening. Funds secured for cocoa purchases might be ring-fenced and used as such, as the core business of Cocoa Board is to purchase cocoa beans produced by farmers. Government must urgently make determination on the current farm gate price of cocoa to aid the apprehension of all value chain actors.
And so you heard the voice of Victus Ja, who is Executive Secretary of the Licensed Cocoa Buyers Association of Ghana. Still on cocoa, let's now go to the phone lines and speak to Obed Owusu-Adai, co-coordinator of the Ghana Civil Society Cocoa Platform. Mr. Owusu-Adai, good evening. Thank you for joining us on 3FM.
Hi, good evening, Martin. Thank you for having me.
We know that, this has been a major challenge for the sector for several years now. We are in 2026. We are hoping that things will change. What, in your estimation, should be the strategy going forward as regards how government can secure funding and pay the farmers on time, because they need to reinvest and also take care of their lives? So what is your assessment of the situation? What is the way forward?
Well, once again, thank you, Martin. And I'm happy that you got it spot on. This is not isolated. It didn't happen this year. It's been a problem that occurs, has been reoccurring almost every year since Ghana changed our cocoa financing arrangement. In the first place, let me put it on record that for civil society, especially the Ghana Civil Society Cocoa Platform, we were 100% in support of government wanting to change the existing financing mechanism, i.e. trying to work with the chocolate companies and then the cocoa companies to secure funding to pay farmers instead of going to the Eurobond market to syndicate loans. But what we are beginning to realize, and this is where the solutions come in, is that probably we were too hasty in going that way. We could have had a hybrid. And I was listening to the soundbite that you just played, and I think I agree with the gentleman that spoke, that we were too quick in transitioning from the syndication into this new funding arrangement where we were overly dependent on the chocolate companies. Martin, what is happening is that the chocolates and the cocoa companies on the international market, they have caused this problem. They are refusing to pay upfront for the beans that they are supposed to take from Ghana because of several reasons. They're arguing that Ghana's cocoa price is high compared to other markets and that the international market is dropping and Ghana needs to revise our prices downwards. So the solution, I think, is that government needs to go to the table with the license buying companies, with the chocolate companies, and probably local financing institutions and come to an arrangement where especially the local license buying companies can be resourced to be able to purchase beans for Ghana. But on record, we are in support of the new funding arrangement. I should put on record.
Right. Briefly, I know that you have just hit the nail on the head about how government needs to re-strategize going forward. But in the interim, is it true or not that Ghana's cocoa comparatively is more expensive than those from our neighboring countries and other cocoa producing countries?
Well, Martin, sadly it is true that currently the farmer in Ghana is receiving higher than most of the other African countries because the price on the international market has dropped on the international market. But because of the arrangement that Cocoa Board or the agreement Cocoa Board has with farmers, they have not done a downward review of the price. So yes, indeed, Ghana is receiving a very, very favorable price compared to other African countries, especially our neighbors, Cote d'Ivoire, to some extent, Cameroon and Nigeria.
Our cocoa is premium, isn't it? But how can we readjust this trend? Is it possible to review it downwards, or it probably has a bit more than just dropping our prices?
Well, Martin, that will require a whole set of conversation. I'm saying this because for a very long time, when the price was high on the international market, government refused to increase the price, and our neighbors were enjoying whilst we were not enjoying. So now that the price has dropped on the international market, the government doesn't have the moral right, unfortunately, to come to us farmers and say that we are reducing it, because the argument we will make to them is that when it was high on the international market, they were still giving us peanuts, and so you have no justification now. But I think the bigger question is, we need to revise our cocoa price mechanism, how we price our cocoa beans. Do we stick with this hedging where government pegs the price and says that throughout the year, I'm not reducing it? Is it sustainable when the international market is dropping? Are they able to absorb the excesses? And I would argue that no, they can't. And so they need to find a way of blending the open market approach with this kind of system that we have now. Okay. We need Cocoa Board to safeguard the interests of the farmers, but we also need Cocoa Board to be sustainable, and the current arrangement doesn't make them sustainable.
All right. Thank you so much for speaking to us this evening on this subject.
So welcome, Martin.
And that is Obed Owusu-Adai, who is the co-coordinator, Ghana Civil Society Cocoa Platform. And clearly, it's a bigger conversation than many would think. And looking at the important role cocoa plays when it comes to Ghana's economy, this is a necessary conversation we must have, especially considering how much we are dependent on cocoa proceeds for not just the economy, but for the cocoa farmer and their families, and for businesses as well. This is 3FM 92.7. You're listening to Hot Edition. It is live from our studio here at Adesanwe Kanda in Accra. And also we are streaming on Facebook and on YouTube, so you can stream this bulletin there, and then also send us your thoughts and messages on the many stories that we have for you this evening. Let's go to one of the big stories, which has to do with Nana Agrada, as many of you would know her. Well, The big news is that the Amasaman High Court has reduced the sentence of former traditional priestess turned evangelist Patricia Asiedu-Dartey, popularly known as Nana Grada, from 15 years to 12 months. The court delivered the ruling on Thursday after partly upholding Agrada's appeal, which challenged the Accra Circuit Court's decision on the grounds that she was not granted a fair trial and that the sentence imposed was excessive. Nana Grada was originally sentenced to 15 years imprisonment on each of the 2 counts of defrauding by false pretense, with the court ordering that the sentence run concurrently. She was also fined 300 Ghana cedis for charlatanic advertisement. The conviction and sentence stem from a televised broadcast in 2022, during which Agrada claimed she would distribute 300,000 Ghana cedis to needy persons during a church service. However, instead of giving out money, she allegedly collected various sums from members of the public without making any disbursements. Meanwhile, legal practitioner and policy commentator Austin Bracco Powers has sharply criticized the Amasaman High Court's decision to reduce Agrada's sentence from 15 years to 12 months. He spoke earlier on Midday News here on 3FM. Let's listen to Austin Bracco Powers.
It's quite surprising, but it's not new, for a judge to have, or for a subsequent an appellate court, as it is, to reduce a sentence from 15 years to just 12 months. And the key question that people will be asking is that, is it really legal? And the answer is that imposition of jail time or years of imprisonment is discretionary. Just that the law has circumscribed the years that must be imposed. And in fact, looking at the charges, the basis of which Agrada was convicted and sentenced, he was charged with one count of charlatanic advertisement and 2 counts of defrauding by false pretenses. And with the charlatanic advertisement, the punishment is a fine. So it's a misdemeanor where the punishment is a fine. When you are convicted, the punishment is a fine. But with the 2 counts of defrauding by false pretenses, that is a serious offense. In fact, it's a serious offense. Defrauding by false pretense is a 2nd-degree felony. And when you look at Section 296 of the Criminal and Other Offences Procedure Act 1930, it provides that when a person is convicted for defrauding by false pretense, the person is liable to a term of imprisonment not exceeding 25 years. So the trial court, which was the circuit court, if I had to decide to impose a 15-year jail term, so it's curious to reduce it to just 1 year, 1 calendar month. That is more like making mockery of because I think judges have discretion to impose jail term, but sometimes they must look at what the law says. They must take solace from the law. They must act within the legal framework. The law says it must not exceed 25 years.
And that is Austin Bracco Powers giving his thoughts on and clearly expressing surprise at the decision of the Amasaman Court or High Court to reduce the sentence of Nana Grada from 15 years to 1 year. Let's get the thoughts of private legal practitioner Martin Pebu. Give us some legal education on this. Good evening, sir. Thank you for joining us on 3FM Council.
Yes, good evening. Evening.
Right. Were you surprised when you also heard the news about the reduction in the jail term or the appeal that Nana Grada put forward, which has now been reduced to a year?
Yes, but positively surprised. That means, yes, pleasant. It's a pleasant surprise because, for some time now we've been saying that some of the prison terms are excessively harsh. Yes, some of the terms are harsh. So to see that, okay, this is a forward-looking judge who has reduced it this way, I'll be slow to criticize it because, number one, I haven't seen the full judgment. So once you haven't seen the full judgment, as a lawyer, it's impossible to do a constructive criticism because it's not seeing the reasons, etc. So we have to hold our horses till the judgment is out.
Right, and maybe the English is not even coming. Maybe for purposes of education, help us understand what the considerations are when a judge is going to give a final verdict. Arguments from lawyers, etc. But to arrive at 15 and then someone else slashes it to 10, what goes into the thinking generally before judgment is given? Good.
So here, the rules, we just have broad guidelines. They don't help a certain judge that much. So things like age, okay? Then is the person a first-time offender? Then they would also mention the frequency of that offense. Is it on the ascendancy? Is it threatening society, right? Then the harm that's been caused, right? These are, and then even beyond this, some of the laws themselves, there are certain restrictions on how to sentence. So we heard Lawyer Bracco Power says that the maximum is 25, meaning that don't make a mistake and go beyond that, because in times past, people had a tendency to do what? To go beyond. You know, in the same Ghana we are talking about, sometime past, we used to kill people for robbery. Yes, that was the sentence, death. Yes, I have clients who are on that death row because they committed robbery at the time that the sentence was death. So I'm saying that so some of the offenses, apart from the age, the what do you call it, the ascendancy, that's whether the crime is such a serious one that's causing fear and panic in society, okay, and those other ones that I've mentioned. Apart from that, the sentence, the specific laws themselves sometimes give some guidance, but they are not sufficient. We try to do a sentencing guideline, but it's very rudimentary, and then we didn't even pass into hard law. And so you see that some judges will tell you that it's not binding, it's a guide. If they want, they go by it. If they don't, but elsewhere matters. If you see the sentencing guideline alone, very big book, fat book, trying to help judges in every respect. So the truth of the matter is that as we develop generally, then our manners soften. It's just like the way you see now that we develop far more, you see that we have to throw out the death penalty. So now, for over 97% of the offenses, death penalty has been abolished. Now it's only the one in the Constitution, high treason, that we still have death penalty. And also when it comes to the military, we couldn't remove it from the Act 104 from the military. But the point I'm making is that you see now we've developed more as a nation, so we soften. Okay, so there's that correlation that the more generally you develop, then the more you soften and you look at other considerations, rehabilitation, etc. So as for your question, that what does a judge go look at? These are the things that I've mentioned: the age, the deterrence principle. Do they want to give a deterrence? But before you say you want to give a deterrence, there are special conditions. You just don't look at this accused person and say that you use him as an example to deter others. No. And then there are other ones that I've mentioned. Okay. Yeah. Right.
And maybe finally, before you take leave of us, there are those who say that this decision to slash down the 15 years to 1 year could in and of itself allow people to, misbehave, for lack of a better expression, or knowing that this kind of crime or people who are doing similar things know that maximum a year, 2 years, if you're able to appeal, you probably might get less. And it would encourage people to want to go down this line. Is that a thought you share, or you think it is, far-fetched?
Yes, it's far-fetched. That argument, you hear it all the time. Anytime we are softening, or if the word is not softening, we are moderating sentences. When we're doing the death penalty, that's how people said, to encourage people to murder others. You see, the death penalty was thrown out a little over 2 years ago. We've not seen any reported astronomical increases in deaths, in murders. You see, yet when we're working on death penalty, no. It's there for a purpose. There will be a high murders, etc. You see, it didn't happen. This one, that's the same. And this one, let's not forget that this is a second degree felony. So now Agrada, right, is a convicted felon. When she goes to the U.S. Embassy looking for a visa for UK, then when you fill in the form, you ask, have you ever been convicted of a felony? She has to tick yes. Then when she gets to the interview, they want to get details. So her chances of traveling out have been greatly diminished. Many other both in great countries. So and it's a lifelong stigma. She's a convicted felon. It's a lot. Of course, once again, because now we've developed a bit, so it's not as stigmatizing as when we were far younger. But it's a great inconvenience to be a convicted felon. Oh, no. There are a lot of places, everything they have to do for you, they have to scrutinize you double. So something that Martin Asiedu that they'll ask you 3 questions. For a felon, you have to ask more. And so many things. So it's not a child's play to be a convicted felon. No, it's not a child's play. So she will suffer it for a long time. And actually for the rest of, unless she can get it overturned. But that's not what happened in the court case. So let's not take it that she's been given a slap on the wrist. No. It's not a slap.
Right. Counsel, thank you so much for your education and your thoughts as always.
You're welcome.
And that is Martin Pebu, who is a private legal practitioner, sharing his thoughts on the Agrada sentence slash, where he clearly is saying that he's positively surprised about the development, and says that it's actually a positive step in Ghana's jurisprudence, considering the fact that we are changing gradually as a country when it comes to the law and legalities, and this is one such step in the right direction. But I would wait to see the other arguments that people are positing on this particular development. This is 3FM's Hot Edition. Let's bring you some stories before we swing into the world of business. And President John Dramani Mahama in July 2025 cut short for the commencement of work on the project, which is expected to fully protect communities along the coastline suffering devastating tidal wave destruction, and that is communities in and around the Ketu South municipality, the phase 2 of the Blekusu Sea Defense Project. Our correspondent Faisal Abdul Idris was part of a tour of the Volta region's MPs to the site this week and has come through with this report where the minister, the MP for the area, I should say, has been addressing the media.
It will be presumptuous of me to just use my layman's eye to say it is 10% or 25% and then start arguing with what the minister has said. All I can say is that I'm so happy to see them on site. I have seen the work that they have done. Saving the school has been the problem, but I'm glad that they've put boulders around it. So what is left of the school is there. My expectation is that the work is done speedily, so that we see what can be done with the community.
Technically, they've done a lot. If you look at the drawings that have been done so far and the protection, you could see that the sea will not go to the other side. I am really, you realize I wasn't talking because 5 years ago when we came, there were houses here, but now you don't even find anything. I remember some time ago we came in a classroom there. People were living in that classroom because the houses were washed away. Today, you see that we are reclaiming the land. And so I'm grateful to His Excellency the President. My sister, who has been crying all the time, the question she asked in Parliament has been her sea defense. Life will return to this place. Initially, we were thinking of alternative livelihood. And the alternative livelihood is that when they return, they'll have a fish market, they'll have a landing beach, they'll have a place where they can trade. There'll be a cold store here. And that's the promise of John Mahama, and he will surely deliver.
And you earlier heard the voice of Jifa Gomashi, who is the Member of Parliament for the Ketu South constituency. This is still Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Time now for the latest in the world of business.
Good evening. Let's do some business on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. My name is Grace Hamwa Ajuman, and the Ghana Chamber of Construction Industry is calling on the president to ensure that outstanding payment owed to contractors are released without further delay. The appeal comes despite a presidential directive for funds to be paid into the road fund to settle contractors' arrears ahead of the Yuletide season. The newly inducted chairman of the chamber, Nana Oparikwafu I, says the funds have yet to be released, a situation he warns is hurting contractors across the sector. He was speaking at the chamber's handover ceremony and the inauguration of its governing council and standing committees.
My appeal, first of all, to President is the immediate one. Somewhere in December 23rd, he instructed and payment was effected into the Ghana Road Fund account. I just want him to know today, over 1 month, 11 days, that money hasn't reached contractors. I repeat, we haven't received that money. I applaud the president for his swift intervention. As he quoted in that, during that time, he says he wants contractors to go and spend at least Christmas. Christmas has come to pass, yet we haven't got that money. Mr. President, you have honored your part, but I'm sure somehow, somewhere, there is a standing block. You have the powers. Come in and see the release of that money to contractors.
President, Chairman of the Ghana Chamber of Construction Industry, Nana Oparikwafu I, to other stories, the Center for Environmental Management and Sustainable Energy, CEMSI, has issued a stern call to the National Petroleum Authority, NPA, to take decisive action against all marketing companies involved in the illegal diversion of premixed fuel. The policy think tank is urging the regulator to either revoke or refuse the renewal of licenses for any company found channeling fuel intended for the fishing industry into the vehicular retail market. Let's listen to Executive Director at CEMSI, Benjamin Insia.
Some OMCs in the petroleum downstream, the MPA as well as the GRA must also put certain creative measures to ensure that none of these products are diverted from the origin to the destination. Because in as much as the concern of the OSP is about tax evasions or subsidies making from government, I think that from the consumer perspective, it also destroys a lot of vehicles, causing damage to most vehicles. Because premixed fuel are not meant for vehicular use. They are marine oil meant for outboard motors and other marine transport. But to bring them onto the vehicular market damages a lot of vehicles. And I think that MPA must put in measures to address this particular fuel diversion once and for all. It is a major concern because Ghana loses about 50 million annually as a result of these diversions. And these benefit these OMCs. I think the other part we must also do is to ensure that any OMC observed with evidence that they are engaged in this diversion must not have their license in operation. I think their license should be revoked to serve as a deterrent.
Executive Director at CEMSI, Benjamin Insia, ending the business edition on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. My name is Grace Hamwa. Sports is coming up shortly.
Love doesn't always end. Sometimes it just pauses, needs some rekindling, needs a spark.
Details in the following report.
As part of preparations for the 2026 Women's African Cup of Nations, the Black Queens of Ghana will be playing a four-nation tournament in the United Arab Emirates called the Pink Ladies Cup. They will be playing alongside Hong Kong, Russia, and Tanzania, who are also in the Women's African Cup of Nations Group B. Remember, Tanzania will be playing alongside South Africa, Burkina Faso, and Cote d'Ivoire. For the Black Queens, this is a major test as they hope to make it to the semifinals of the 2026 Women's African Cup of Nations and grab a spot for the 2027 Women's World Cup, which will be staged in Brazil. Coach Kemlas Bjorkegren will be using this four-nation tournament to fine-tune his squad ahead of the Women's African Cup of Nations. Remember, the Pink Ladies Cup was designed with a vision of supporting the development of women's football. And so from the 28th of February to the 6th of March, the Black Queens of Ghana will be in the United Arab Emirates for this four-nation tournament.
And so that was a report put together by my colleague Akosieje on the Black Queens, who are preparing to face Tanzania, Russia, and then Hong Kong in a four-nation tournament. Away from the Black Queens, let's turn attention to men's football, because Asante Kotoko will be in action in the MTN FA Cup round of 16 on Saturday. The Porcupine Warriors will be looking to bounce back to winning ways after suffering a 3-1 defeat to Hearts of Lions in the Ghana Premier League last weekend. Now, ahead of that tie, Karim Zito, who is head coach of Kotoko, says he wants his team to put the defeat to Lions behind them and go all out against Aduana to defend their crown.
Anticipating a good game, better than what we did in the league. One of the worst performances I will admit was against Heart of Lion. And one nice thing about football is you always have the opportunity to make amendments. And we use the Aduana match to make amendments to please our fans. And being the defending champions, we have to show that we are really the defending champions.
So that was Kumasi Asante Kotoko head coach Karim Zito speaking ahead of the MTN FA Cup clash against Aduana FC. Finally, before we go, in Europe, Manchester United will be looking to make a 4 out of 4 wins under Michael Carrick in the Premier League when they do face Spurs on Saturday. Despite a brilliant start under Carrick, the United interim head coach has admitted that his side is wary of the threats that Spurs possess.
Certainly bring a challenge. I think you can see especially the way they finished the game the other day, and they've had over a period of time players injured and ins and outs, and a lot of changes to the team, which makes things a lot more challenging, a lot more difficult from their perspective. But getting players back, and they've got good attackers, really good attackers that look to stretch the back line and play forward and attack the box an awful lot. So it's something we certainly got to be aware of, and slightly different game to maybe what we've played over recent weeks in some ways, but we're looking forward to it. We're in a good place, and boys have worked well again this week. Again, feet on the ground. Let's not get carried away with what's gone on, but it's about what's next again. So big challenge ahead.
Meanwhile, his opposite number, Thomas Frank, who is head coach of Spurs, has also praised Michael Carrick for the work done since assuming the role as interim head coach of Manchester United.
Yeah, I think he's had a great start. Seems like there was injected a little bit of energy or whatever into the team. And I think it looks like some of the players are they are in a good place. We know the threats. I also think the post before from Brian and Burmo, Amat, Cunha, and we know Fernandes is getting this team ticking. He's done that the last 4 or 5 years. It's been incredible. So it's a threat. It's a challenge.
So that was Tottenham Hotspur head coach Thomas Frank speaking, bringing an end to Hot Edition here on 3FM 92.7. Join us same time tomorrow for more updates in the world of news.